I've got a mic. Okay, today we're gonna go over how to deadlift, everything we're looking for in points of performance for a conventional deadlift. So the very first thing I'm gonna do is kick off these shoes because they have a rocker bottom and they make me feel like I'm gonna tip over. So if you need to know what shoes would be best for deadlifts, you should ask your PT. We love talking about that. Okay. So there's a few things that we're looking for with a deadlift. One is making sure your feet are about hip width apart for a conventional deadlift. You also need to have the hip hinge movement pattern down and dialed. So that's something that you can practice with your PT as well. It's likely that they've gone over that with you before starting the deadlift. So it's a hip hinge dominant pattern. So we're going to keep a neutral spine. Hips go back, and this is what we're looking for a hip hinge. Head position just stays neutral. Let's break it down and do a deadlift. So you've obviously done your warm-up first. You've warmed up with a lighter bar, and then you've loaded it up to where you want to be. But I'm going to start with my feet hip width apart here. And then as I'm coming down, I want to keep my shoulders over the bar. And then we want to pull the bar close to our shins here. So what we'll see is a closed triangle here. If the bar's out here and your triangle's open, that's not great. So we got to pull it back and pretend like we're juicing oranges with our armpits. That's activating your lats, and you will be able to keep a better neutral spine. Lats are super cool because they go from your hips to your arms, spanning pretty much your entire back. So super cool muscle and super important not to forget. Now that we have our setup down, we're going to talk about what do we do next. So we're here, and then here's our setup. You want your hips higher, or your shoulders higher than your hips and your hips higher than your knees. If you're somebody who has different proportions than me, you might be a little bit more up here or a little bit more down here. That's all okay. Then what we're gonna do, set up, and what I'm thinking about is my hips and knees rising together, and I'm just pushing the floor away, straight up. At the tippy top, we wanna make sure that the bar is coming near our hips. Next, to come back down, very first thing is our hips go back. Like somebody has a rope around your hips and they're pulling you backwards. So hips go back. Nothing happens with my knees until after the bar passes them, and then I can bend the rest of the way. That's a deadlift. We're gonna do a few more in real time. So feet hip width apart. We're coming down, braced, neutral spine, shoulders higher than hips, hips higher than knees. Oranges squeezed by the armpits, lats activated, and then bar close to shins. Push the floor away, stand up, bring the bar to your hips, and then hips go back to initiate the descent, and then bending our knees after our bar passes our knees. Don't do weird things with your head like that. When it's heavy, that won't feel very good. So again, neutral. A good way to think about what your head's doing is your nose is pointing the same direction that your belly button is at all times. And that's our deadlift. Let us know if you have questions.